Hello, my name is Brian Friedland, and welcome to another episode of Inside the GSC. Today I am interviewing the Gulf South Conference's Commissioner Matt Wilson. Matt has been the commissioner here at the GSC since 2014 and joined the conference after working as the COO and Senior Associate Commissioner at the ASUN Conference. He will talk about his path to the GSC, what it takes to be a commissioner in today's college athletics landscape, and more. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the GSC. Today I am joined by a pretty important guy, a pretty special guest on today from the Gulf South Conference. He is the commissioner of the GSC, Matt Wilson. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Ryan, thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad I got the call.
No problem. And so we'll start getting into this one a little bit. So before we start, though, just want to, I know we're starting to get back into the roll of things heading into the fall season, but how does it feel to be at the end of another successful academic and athletic school year and be now getting ready for hopefully will be another one in the fall?
It's always rewarding when we get those last few trophies handed out. We've seen a lot of celebrations, a lot of excitement, a lot of good things happen. And it is always very rewarding to be able to give out those last trophies and wrap up our end of the year meetings and our annual awards recognition celebration. So that's just the culmination of a great amount of work. The summers seem to get shorter every year, so we're already rolling and trying to get ready for a series of events that are in late July. So the time off is short, and but we're excited about the work.
For sure, for sure. And then so we'll start diving into this one. So just going into your path a little bit, it is a really interesting path as we'll touch on a little bit, but getting into sports in the first place, was there any like specific memory growing up that kind of got you on the path in the first place?
My family has always been a sports family. We've not necessarily had great athletes, but we've loved games. We've loved playing. My mom and dad never missed a game growing up. My dad coached us all throughout our young youth, and it just always seemed like sports played a really big role in our family. And I thought that might look like me coaching at some point down the road, but a couple of fortunate turns moved me into athletic administration, and we've not looked back since.
There you go. Yeah. And then so touched on before, your path was really interesting in the fact that you started off as a worker at a school. You were at Belmont. So could you detail what you did at Belmont and kind of how you made that, how you got to the GSC in general?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's really a lot of divine appointments and throughout that's led me from being a 21-year-old assistant SID at Belmont to being able to lead this great league, and it's been fun to watch. So I was like to take night classes when I was at Belmont, and I was taking a night class in marketing when they were making their transition from NAI to Division One, and their assistant AD for marketing came in and said, "We need some help. We're looking for student workers." And I thought there might not be a worse way to spend my senior year is working in the athletic department. So they hired me, and I was hanging up flyers and doing goofy promotions at games. And all of a sudden, they had an SID opening pop up when someone resigned, and I'd had some experience doing some journalism in high school and early in my time at Belmont, and jumped into that role, embraced it. Guess I did a good enough job. The AD asked if I'd come on board as a glorified intern for my first year, and that worked out great. And another SID left in consecutive years, and they decided to put me into that position and see what I could do. So at 23, I was the head SID at Belmont and just ran with it. And that was a great 6 years. I owe Eric Jones and Mike Strickland at Belmont a ton of credit for where I'm at today, for giving me those opportunities. But Belmont was a great place. Nashville's a fantastic city, so people didn't leave much. So my opportunity for growth there was closed, and an opportunity at the Atlantic Sun Conference popped open to run championships and communications. And Bill Bibb and Ted Gumbart showed a lot of trust in me to hire me for that position. and I progressively gained more experience and more responsibilities over 9 years there, finishing up as the chief operating officer at the ASUN before really being awarded this position from the Gulf South Conference Search Committee. And the last 10 or 11 years have been just an exciting stretch here at the GSC.
Gotcha. And then just kind of following up to that, when did you start getting the sense that you wanted to be a commissioner? And was that more when you were at the conference level, or did it start even when you were at Belmont?
No, I really didn't know what to expect when I took the job at the A-Sun. My initial thought was, hey, I want to be an athletics director. That's what I want to do. I'm going to take this job and I'm going to get to work with 12 ADs and 12 presidents. And, in 2 or 3 years, I'll be a number two at a school, or I'll be even an AD at a smaller place. And as I settled into the A-Sun job, it showed that this is more my calling and what's intended for my life. So that became more and more clear the longer I worked at the A-Sun, and now I would never, I don't think I'd ever consider going back to campus. It'd have to be an unbelievable situation for me to take that. I don't know that my skill set matches it, and it would take something to get me back to campus. But this conference work has been fantastic and really rewarding.
For sure, for sure. And then, so kind of digging deeper into the Belmont and ASUN experiences, kind of how has all of those kind of culminated? Because obviously you don't become a commissioner overnight. You build up a lot of different skill sets. So how have some of those skill sets kind of helped you in your current role now as commissioner here?
I tell people sometimes that I know a little bit about a lot, and working in those various aspects has helped in that capacity, knowing a little bit about a lot of how athletics works. So I think all of those stops and all of those experiences have really helped form me into who I am now. Um, Again, I've got to give a lot of credit to my mentors, who Eric Jones at Belmont and Ted Gumbard at A-Sun, for progressively giving me more and more responsibility. I sought it out. I did good work, and they rewarded that with more and more responsibility, which helped me grow into being somebody that felt like could run a conference at the top spot, as long as I had a good team around me. So that's been a real blessing here at the GSC, is that we've had a good team around us and the support of our presidents and our board and our athletic administrators on campus. So just, it's a journey. You look back, and you think it's a real winding, hard to get through path, and you look back, and it would prepared you exactly for where you need to be.
For sure, for sure. And I feel like you started touching on like a very important theme too, especially in this industry of being a go-getter. And I know that's something you've preached to me all the time here is just, you have to be aggressive and you have to be able to stick up for yourself and kind of put yourself out there because if you never take those shots, I was saying on one of our episodes where it was like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I feel like just immersing yourself in a lot of different places has set you up really well, just from my perspective, of course, set you up
Yeah,
very
I
well
would.
for success here.
I'd agree with you. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning, is the
Right.
other thing. So there's going to be mistakes that come. You hope that there's small ones that are easily corrected or not terribly impactful. We're not always that lucky, but that's one of the things to remember is if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not learning a whole lot along the way as well. So we've got to embrace some of those failures along with the successes. Now, certainly the successes have to weigh out number the failures, but those are part of the important part too. And one of the things that I think really served me well along my path was I tried to identify things that I thought I could do well that my direct reports, or my supervisors rather, either didn't have the bandwidth to do as well as they wanted to, or just wasn't naturally inclined to do. And if I can take on those responsibilities and really do well with them, it serves the organization well, it serves your supervisor well, and ultimately it'll serve you well.
For sure, for sure. I've gotten to pick your brain a lot on this subject in particular. But obviously sports is a really competitive industry and it's getting even more competitive. And I've asked you this question many times. I feel like a lot of people would be able to learn something just from being able to see your experiences. But for somebody who's a young professional trying to get into this field and make themselves stand out, what kind of advice would you give to them?
That's a great question, Brian. And again, I think that advice is you've got to meet people. You've got to be willing to put in the work, and then you have to do quality work. So those are three really key things. And again, if there's if you're in an organization and there's something that you can do well that's either not being done or is really draining from your team, and you can take it on and do it well, do it. Those sort of things resonate with people. But meeting folks and gaining a lot of experience, those are two really, really key issues.
For sure, for sure. And then getting back to, you started speaking about your mentors a little bit when you were at Belmont and ASUN, but was there any like piece of advice that they gave you that's kind of stuck around to and kind of applied to your work today?
That's a great question, and there's so many lunch conversations and time in the car on the road to an event or a championship that we were able to share things. I know that Eric at Belmont always encouraged you to keep the organization first and forefront. We were doing marketing and communications. We wanted to make sure that we represented the organization the way that we thought it should be. So whether that was in our work or our tone or our language, whatever it is, make sure you're representing the organization. And then Ted was a fantastic mentor and a great commissioner at the ASUN before he retired a couple years ago. And he wanted you to make sure you focused on the things outside the office as well, to don't lose track of those, because sports and athletics work can become all consuming. Even without trying real hard, there can be 60-hour weeks, particularly for our campus folks. And so Ted was always real cognizant about making sure that the family time was carved out, that the time for rest and recovery and exercise and whatever else spiritual recovery that comes with it, that you're making sure you make time for that. So representing the organization in a quality manner, and then making sure that you take care of your life outside of the professional, were two really key pieces of advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I that second part too, where you're talking about a lot of young professionals, I feel like experience a lot of burnout early in their careers because they don't have families, they don't have like significant others or other extenuating circumstances. So it's easy to kind of just stay at the office and just keep working, but it's so important just to make sure you're taking care of up here as much as, your physical or whatever. And I feel like that kind of builds into my next question where you're the commissioner of a conference. There's not there even with the summer, there's not that much time off, I should say. So how do you decompress during the week especially when we're in championship season and it's go time? That's the campus has their regular season, we have to deal with certain things, but it's go time when we hit our conference championship. So how do you decompress and kind of keep yourself sane through all of this?
Sometimes I do that better than others, that's for sure. And you've probably seen both sides of that during your time here. But my family is so supportive, so supportive. My wife Sarah was a Division III basketball player. She's been a college and high school coach. She's currently a high school athletics director. Both my kids have been all in on sports and have never known anything else other than being in a gym or being in an event with us. So knowing that you can come home and they'll ask you the right questions, but also let you have a chance to catch your breath is just amazing. Some of the other ways, and I've done this better in the past and I'm doing it currently, but just taking some time for physical, both rest and exercise. I think both of those are really important. Just moving is really good, but also making sure when you're ready to sleep, just get some rest. And the other couple pieces, I try to keep my mind sharp intellectually. I love to read, and I like to read for entertainment, edification, and education. So I try to rotate through a series of books to hit all three of those E's for me. And then finally, my faith gives me a lot of rest and things that I can trust in there, and being able to be a part of a church community and other people that support you in that way, and see you as something different than the athletics guy is pretty refreshing also.
For sure. Yeah. Those are all great things. And then also just being a commissioner too and diving more into that field, there's an opportunity where you get to go to a lot of different conferences and you get to speak with other commissioners from different divisions. And so I was wondering, how impactful has that been? You know, some of those are more serious than others. Most of the time they're very serious, but you still get to hear different things that's going on. And you keep intact with what's going on in other divisions, especially with how much it's changing around college sports nowadays. So how impactful has it been being able to be around different commissioners and see different ways that they're operating and seeing, oh, maybe I can apply this to what we're doing here at the GSC?
Oh, it's totally invaluable. I mean, you have to have people that do that. We joke at the Division Two commissioners meetings, and nobody else does our job, right? So we have a unique perspective on our job. Everybody thinks they know the ins and outs, but there's always a little something that they may not be aware of. So those 23, when the 23 of us are able to gather and able to share challenges and opportunities and successes and frustrations, that goes a long, long way. And that doesn't just extend to the Division Two commissioners. I've got friends in the other rooms in the Division One and NAI and Division Three rooms, and we face similar challenges. I tell people a lot of times it's just different logos and different decimal points. So that's a lot of what you have to deal with. So having those folks that you can really lean on is really vital. And if you don't have them, it feels like it could be a really lonely existence trying to be a commissioner without those folks to be able to bounce ideas off of and to celebrate successes together.
Right, for sure. And I know there isn't a typical day to day for a commissioner. I think it'd be very naive to say that every day is the same, but there's a lot of people that they don't know exactly what goes on around the conference office every day. So what does, if you did have to pinpoint a typical day to day, what for a commissioner, what would that look like for you?
A lot of times it's addressing issues that are really urgent and time sensitive, whether that's policy issue or a championship issue or something else. So there's a lot of that. We also spend a significant amount of time on policy and making sure that we're setting up our schools for success, which looks different in every sport, and it looks different for every school. So something that's successful for one school in one sport may be a real challenge for them for another school. So trying to do that, but really just advocating for our member institutions, trying to create great championship experiences. And every day you're working on membership. Everybody knows that there's transitions in membership all the time. We face a huge issue with our football playing institutions. We face big issues on what the future of NCAA looks like and how big should the Gulf South be. So a significant amount of time on membership, and all of that takes somebody that feels like they can do a good job at consensus building. If I had to really drill down on what I feel like my job is, in just a couple words, it'd be consensus building, trying to make sure that 12 institutions that have different priorities, different institutional missions, different resource levels, different aspirations, all rally around the GSC logo and do what's best for the collective group. And that'll change as the years go on and as the folks in chairs change and impositions change. But that consensus building is really both the most challenging and most rewarding part of the job.
Yeah, and that's an important part too, and that kind of segues into my next question, where how do you play that happy medium between the campuses and the conference? Because obviously you're trying to do the best for everyone. So, but at the end of the day, you're not going to make everybody happy, and in no matter what you're doing, whatever decision you make, somebody's going to be upset with it. So, how do you find that perfect balance, or maybe imperfect is the better word, but the most optimal? There we go, optimal. How do you find the most
There we
optimal
go.
balance between the two?
I've heard some people say if everybody's happy or if everybody's mad, you may not be doing it exactly right. So you have to understand that not everybody's going to be happy all the time, and you're certainly not going to stay in the role very long if everybody's mad all the time either. So you have to be able to do that. At the end of the day, myself and our staff, we're the only ones that are paid to look out for the whole of the 12. Everybody else is paid to look out for their institution and their institution's best interest. Now, do we have great collaborators in our league? Unbelievable collaborators, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Even from my time at Belmont through my time at the ASUN, I'd never seen a group that will get on board and pull the same direction like the group in the Gulf South Conference does. So that makes it much easier. than it could be otherwise if folks were all pulling in different directions. So, um, I think that just knowing that we are the advocates, we're the ones that have to look out for the whole, and then we have to do a good job of making sure we're clear on our mission and that folks know that even if we don't align with your institution on this issue, there will be others that we do and that we do care about what's going on in your campus, but we have to look out for the whole. So it's a difficult job sometimes, but it's the one that we are able to do. I often say that conference office staff have more bosses than anybody in the world. We've got 12 presidents, 12 ADs, 12 SWAs, 12, you name it, administrative support, and then 12 times how many ever coaches everybody has. And that doesn't count the fans, our officials, and others that feel like they have a part of what we're trying to do. So we try to represent them well as we go through. And sometimes we hit the nail on the head, sometimes we miss and take another swing.
For sure. And I feel like you're starting to get to a point too where we're talking in a much broader perspective. We're talking a lot about relationship building within this industry. And how important has that been? Because I've gotten to see it on the conference level, like just especially when we were at the outdoor track championships back in May, where relationship building was so important there because there were so many things going wrong. So how important has that been throughout your time here to kind of you're interacting with so many people and you're building all these different relationships to try to get stuff done around the conference?
It's really, really important. I think you've nailed it, and that's a great observation that people have to trust that you're looking out for the best interest of the whole. And if they don't, then they'll be skeptical of your decision making process. They'll be skeptical of things you bring. So you have to trust. We've got a great group of administrators and coaches in this league that are professional and passionate, and that makes it easier for them to buy into some of these things that we try to bring because I think they recognize that our staff is both professional and passionate as well. So those relationships are really, really important. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time grinding over decisions that you might not otherwise have to if folks trust each other and trust what each other is saying and is receptive to thoughts that folks have. I think one of the things I have to do a little better job of in our meetings is drawing people out and creating more conversation. But that also may be a credit to the work that we've done, that folks trust each other, that once we get to the time that we're together, that a lot of ideas have been vetted either through official means or through side texts or conversations at a games and things like that. So that relationship building, though, huge to be able to get anything done.
For sure. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what kind of is going on in college athletics, but not to the point where I think people would normally go with this, but getting back to when we were in Cleveland, Tennessee. So for any of those who aren't aware of the Cleveland, Tennessee weather, it was when we were there for outdoor track championships, it was a mess. There was rain, thunder, lightning almost every day. We were only there for 3 days and it was almost every day was bad. And but it was kind of symbolic because there was so much adapting, and I feel like that's what you have to do in college sports nowadays. But the one thing I saw you do there, and I think we talked about this before, and I admire you for this, but the ability to just stay calm when everything was going wrong, because that's life in general, right? Everything is going wrong. Nothing ever goes according to plan. So how do you stay calm and collected in what is turning into such a hectic time period for college athletics?
Again, sometimes I'm better at that than others, so I'm thankful for the group that helps keep me grounded. But what I would say to that, Brian, is that we know that change is constant around college athletics. Nothing's the same. People have heard me say this before: is the GSC founded in the very early 1970s, and only one 5-year period in the history of the conference have we had the same membership for that entire 5 years, and that was during COVID. So if COVID had not hit, we likely would have had membership changes in the early 2020s, and that wouldn't even exist. So we know that things are going to change. What I try to remember and again, sometimes I do this better than others, and I try to bounce back when I get sideways. Is that visible frustration and anger likely won't help the situation very often. It doesn't mean I don't do it. I do it more frequently than I should. Um, but once that happens, you got to get back to solving the problem, right? Work the problem. And that's kind of been our mantra for our membership changes as well. Work the problem and let's find a solution that works for as many people as it can. So I think that's where I would get back to at the end of the day, Brian, is that you've got to work the problem in front of you and solve it and try to get to the conclusion of that. And that way you can be ready for the next one. So try to focus on solutions instead of how we got there.
Right, exactly, because you can't change the past, but what you can control is the present and, well, somewhat the future, but you can control your effort in the present so that the future is better. So I love
That's
that
right.
mentality. And then, so also just to wrap up this section, but I was wondering if for anybody who wants to become a commissioner, and obviously it's not like it's a one size fits all approach, but if somebody wanted to take steps towards getting into a position like the one you're in currently with the GSC, what would you advise somebody to do?
Yeah, I would tell them that they need to start doing some conference work earlier than later. I think as you look at the Division 2, and it depends on what division you're going into. Division 1, it may very well see a change into folks that are much more versed in revenue generation and legal concerns and things like that. But at other levels, I think knowing how to work events and knowing how to collaborate with people are two key things. You can do that a lot of places, but there's also a path through conference offices now because the skill set and the problems aren't easily replicated on campus or in other venues as they are in the conference office. And if you look at many of the hires that have happened in Division 2 over the last 5 or 6 years, they've all had conference office experience. So when that opportunity pops up to work in a conference office, if that's your aspiration, I'd say grab it and go and make sure that's what you want to do. I tell folks that are interning with us often that, hey, we want you to have a great internship. And at the end of this, for me, I hope that folks have full-time jobs, making as much money as they can, doing exactly what they want to do, um, and that they know either, hey, I want to stay in athletics, and this has been a great experience, or no, I'm done. I'm going to find something else in the private sector. Both are great outcomes because that's what we want folks to know is what they want to do and how they want to do it. But being a commissioner, I think getting in that conference office pipeline is really important early on.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so we've talked about a lot of serious subjects. I figured we can wrap this up with some fun rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
But so I didn't know this until we went to Cleveland, but we talked about this on the trip there. And you had the chance to be in the stands for one of the most memorable plays in NFL history, the Music City Miracle. So, what was it like being in person there, and what was your reaction as that play was unfolding?
It was fantastic. I mean, I'll never forget. So this was back in the day when you had to get in line to buy tickets at Ticketmaster outlet at the record store in the mall, and you won't even get that reference, but maybe somebody will be old enough watching this that'll get that. So we got the tickets. My brother and one of his friends and my friend went, and we were in the top decks. It was a cold playoff day, and you felt like the game was over there late when the Bills scored. But when that ball is kicked off, you just hope for them. You know, I'm thinking just take a knee, call a fair catch, get out of bounds, whatever, give us a chance to throw it down the field. But as soon as it started developing, you could just feel the energy rising in the entire stadium. And when Wycheck threw that ball across the field and Dyson caught it, it was just erupting. But I tell you, it was a long wait for replay to do their work there. So, and I'm still convinced that that was a backward lateral. So it's completely legal play. I've got some Buffalo Bills friends who would say that it was definitely a forward pass, but I'm convinced it was backwards. I've got the drawing, a diagram of the play on my wall here in the office to help memorialize it. So I'm still convinced it went backwards, but that was one of the most unbelievable scenes and events I'd ever been at.
And that was one of the best seasons in Titans history, or at least has to be up there. So it's
Well,
memorable
yeah.
year. Just wishing it ended a little bit better for your sake.
Well, maybe they'll get another chance sometime. So we'll see.
We'll see. And then, so obviously, you've been commissioner here for a while at the GSC, so and gotten to collect a lot of memories here. So, what has been your favorite memory from the Gulf South Conference?
You know, I love our annual awards banquet, and that is absolutely my favorite night of the year. And just doing those over and over again and being able to see the student athletes and hearing coaches brag on the young people and see how impactful it's been on their families and their friends and what they talk about. So every year, that really is amazing to watch and to see. So those are my top moments. There's been a ton of great games, ton of great experiences, but that opportunity to recognize those folks around their family and friends and their coaches, it just is something to look forward to every year. So I'm excited when that time of the year comes around every time.
For sure, for sure. And hopefully more good memories continue to come as the years
Thank you.
progress. And then so obviously you've gotten to travel, whether it be through work or whether it just be getting well-earned time off at the end of the season. So do you have a top three places you've traveled to?
Oh wow, great question. So just got back from a Alaska cruise in June that we did with our family, and it was unbelievable. I'd never seen that part of the country. Great memories with my three plus my folks and some other families. So that's great. Always love going to San Diego, one of my favorite cities out there. The weather seems to be always perfect. Uh, so that's always fun. And then Nashville will feel like home for a long time. So those will be my top three, and may have a little recency bias on the first one, but those would be my top three right now.
Hey, those are great places to go to. Everybody keeps telling me to go to Nashville, and I still haven't been yet. But while I'm down here, I gotta get there at some point.
It's an easy drive up 65. You'll enjoy yourself.
For sure. And then, so we'll wrap up with this question, but assu let's just say you retire as a commissioner of GSC in hopefully like 20, 30 years, I'm hoping. And, but a professional sports league calls you up and they're like, we want you to be the commissioner of our league. So it could be NFL, MLB, whatever. If there was a professional sports league that you would want to be commissioner for a day for, which one would you choose?
Oh, great. Another great question. So, um, oh, I'm torn between MLB and the MLS. So, baseball was my first love, and soccer is my love now with my son playing so much. So, I would take one of those two. Certainly, they wouldn't like what I would do to MLB, so I better go to MLS instead because they would hate how short the games would get and how soon their salary cap would come in. So, that I would get run out on the rails pretty fast from MLB.
There you go. There you go. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on. And I mean, there's not enough good things I can say about you. I don't want this to become a me gushing about my time here, but it's been the time that I've been able to spend here has been invaluable. You've been one of my mentors here. So I appreciate all you do. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that appreciate what you've done for the conference. So thank you for coming on and thank you for providing a lot of really cool insights about what it's like to be the commissioner of a really high level Division II conference. So thank you, Matt.
Well, Brian, I really appreciate it, and I can't let the opportunity get away without thanking you for the work you've done on the Inside the GSC. This is a new venture for us, and you have led it so well, so professionally. You have been a leader in this space, and not every young person gets a chance to lead on their own project. And I know that our staff, Jason and Angelo, have both helped prepare you for this, but you have led, and this has been really your brainchild. I hope that we are become good stewards of this program after you launch into whatever's next. But we're thankful for you and the work you put in and the energy and effort and how well you represented us. So thank you for what you've done for the GSC.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Matt. I hope you all enjoyed our interview today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever content can be found. Stay tuned for what we have in store next time on Inside the GSC.